everything has been done with the calligraph graph. See, this is confusing. Calligraphy, calligraph, calligram.
And then you have the Calligraph Duo.
Yeah, and then you have Californication. So we're not in California, we're in Mumbai, where there is no fornication of any kind. Who started that rumor? Hello and welcome to Stationery Test Drive, where every week we take a look at different tools and stationery implements.
Today we're talking about the Staedtler Calligraph Duo, or as they call it, Calligraphy Markers.
I'm Samir.
This is Minjal.
And I'm Vishal. We are artists and designers and calligraphers by profession. So what we do every week is choose a tool, the calligraphy markers this week, and we each do a piece testing things out, test driving things. Each piece goes to our own individual tastes and our own whims and fancies. I think Minjal has hers ready, so why don't we have a look at yours?
Okay, so this is what I've done with the calligraphy markers.
I think the internet will give you extra points just for doing a cat. So, tell us about your experience with this. Now, is this all one pen?
Yeah, so I basically the Staedtler Calligraph Duo. It is a two-sided pen. So there's a 3.5 mm nib, which I'm not sure is going to be seen, and there is a 2 mm nib.
Okay.
So I've basically used both the ends of the pen for the thin and thick strokes.
Now, among us, you are the calligrapher by profession. You introduced us to these pens. We don't usually have many calligraphy things on our own. So, but this is not a usual calligraphic demonstration. So, what was it like doing something figurative?
Now, I've actually been teaching calligraphy for the last decade. These pens, they work really well when, you're teaching children, for instance, because they are actually like marker pens or, felt pens. So I've been using these to teach children, and they're fairly easy to use even for adults.
Right. So you would recommend these as almost your first way of getting into calligraphy?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for adults, it's either the Pilot Parallel pen, which we
have done an episode of that, one of our first, in fact. So, what is the advantage of having this is a marker, first of all, right? It's like any other kind of a felt tip marker, but it has this chisel point, which is more rigorously made, I would say, and able to do cleaner lines over a long time. Is that your experience with it?
Essentially, because with the Pilot Parallel pen now, the ink flow can be a problem. But since this is a felt tip marker, there is more control over the ink. So like I said, for beginners, it makes more sense to kind of start with an instrument like this.
I like the variety of marks you've got in here. Did you use the two ends of them for different parts of this?
Yeah, that's right. So this is the 2 mm, the thinner strokes that you'd see. And this is the 3.5. And these are also, again, just the basic strokes that have been used to fill in the illustration.
So besides the fact that you're using the basic strokes and not words, I guess this qualifies as being a calligram?
Yeah, it does. That's right. It does.
Could you tell us what a calligram is?
So a calligram is basically taking a shape, it could be any shape like a kite, cat, dog, filling it with either calligraphy words or with strokes.
I believe there is a lot of Islamic calligraphy that pioneered, or at least where that form flourished.
It did, because it was calligraphy flourished in the Islamic world because it was kind of a workaround for the taboo against visual art.
Okay.
There is a bit of a... It obviously is up for debate even amongst
and trends and beliefs change over time.
exactly. So because there was a bit of a taboo about representing people,
Right.
calligraphy
Or just representing living things in some ways.
and therefore calligraphy became truly highly developed. And I guess this kind of is a secondary cheat in that it's still calligraphy, but it's also representation.
Okay. Speaking of representing things, I've not been very good at representing myself on Stationery Test Drive. But because, like about 12 million other people, I have been playing Elden Ring, which is a fantastic video game from Software. And so this was clearly inspired by that. I'm more of an illustrator of the three of us, and clearly my mind first leapt to this sort of thing instead of calligraphy. I don't think it's really a calligram, but there is calligraphic elements in this graphic thing. I guess long story short, I tried to. I thought I would only use. I had access to the blue, the green, and the black of this set, and I used both ends of them. I tried to actually maybe only do this initially. I had a basic pencil sketch underneath, but this actually, other than the gray tones, which are pencil, everything has been done with the calligraph. See, this is confusing. Calligraphy, calligraph, calligram.
And then you have the Calligraph Duo.
Yeah, and then you have Californication. So we're not in California, we're in Mumbai, where there is no fornication of any kind. Who started that rumor? But yeah, I actually had a good time with this. I was surprised. I did this first, and it's not meant to be any kind of calligraphy, even though it looks vaguely Islamic or some kind of like Eastern letter forms. But yeah, I think I actually enjoyed this, the more figurative work, the landscape work, as much as the lettering or the pseudo lettering.
So, unlike what Minjal did, and we'll come to mine, and maybe a little unlike what I did as well, you've used the pens beyond just using them the entire broad edge.
Yes, the broad edge you can see very clearly here, like when it's like pressed down fully, and we'll do a demonstration of this kind of later. But yeah, sometimes I would just like glance, and I found it very nice for doing these parallel lines because it has a flat wedge edge.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we tried in our parallel pen video. So see our work in that. In that one as well, I did a more illustrated thing, but there, because of the metal nib, it fights you. This is a cartridge paper. It has a certain tooth to it. But I found that this one just glides over the paper really easily. You can do these really fine parallel lines, which is great for doing an almost like a gouged out kind of thing. Yeah, I had fun with this. I would love to use this again for drawing and not just for things like this.
Now see, what Vishal you've done is actually such a departure from what the pen is actually marketed for. Now this is essentially what people on YouTube are making videos of this kind of lettering.
I should, before we interrupt you, I'm sorry to say that this is from the Gothic Calligraphy workshop developed by Minjal Kadakia, designed by Samir Bharadwaj, two of our guest hosts. If you would like this sort of paper and maybe you want to inquire about the workbook, please leave a comment or find us on social media. All our links are in the description. But yes, Minjal, sorry to interrupt you for plugs, but continue.
So, I think a lot of people will be surprised that a pen that is essentially marketed, like I said, for lettering, you can also make something as diverse as this. And Samir, I think you also have something that is quite different than just a lettering piece.
Yes.
Do you want to?
So, what I ended up doing, as always, was to take a figurative approach to things. And that's what I have. I wanted to do, as always, I've said this before, I find portraits to be a great way to test things out because it gives you a range of lines and a range of shapes that you can try. And this is a nice mix of portrait and figure. And I thought including a little bit of tattoo design would be a nice touch.
I think this is excellent. I think you've, even though we both done drawings here, it's very different from this one in the way we approached it. I love that you got a certain sort of feathered edge to it. How did you manage that? Was that intentional or
Yes,
happy accident?
absolutely intentional. The great thing about a felt-based calligraphy pen is that unlike something like the parallel pen, the parallel pen kind of immediately stops ink flow as soon as you lift it off the paper a bit. Whereas a felt tip, when you kind of speed up the stroke towards the end of it,
Right.
you can get that kind of feathered, rough edge.
It's closer to a brush in the way you would sort of use a dry brush technique, which I didn't try actually. I mean, I sort of ended up kind of there, but I think we'll have close-ups on the screen of these. That I really like the way you ended up doing that, but also juxtaposing it with this kind of thing. Hopefully this is showing up on camera. It will show up in our inserts. But I love the line quality you get here. In that, now if you told me this is a parallel pen, I would actually believe you because the liquid ink of it kind of has a certain character, at least on this paper. Maybe less so on smoother papers. But yeah, I really like that it's not an even line. It doesn't look like it was, a digital drawing made in the computer. There is variation to the line, variation to the color.
I think the difference between the parallel pen and
Maybe
this
we'll get
one
into
is something that we kind of need to get into, because there's two things that I found. There was the feathered edge that we are seeing here is really just a matter of going over it at a particular speed. So if you start off slow and then kind of do that, you start to see that feathered edge there. Now you could be very neat in a calligraphic way and do those perfectly even lines.
And they're very satisfying.
And they're
to see.
really beautiful, especially with a rich color like this. But it's as easy to just kind of drag them off at the end and have that kind of line. Now, I think that these kind of pens are unique in that you can do this. It's nearly impossible to do that with a fountain pen like the parallel pen. On the flip side, I think that when you're kind of, especially in an illustrative use, when you're trying to vary the line weight and you try to do that strange rotating thing where you try to kind of do that, I actually find the parallel pen to be better at that.
Yes.
Because the point is that here, as soon as you go halfway, you kind of need to keep moving, otherwise it forms that.
Right, you're getting a kind of a double.
So if you go halfway and then you want to rotate it a little,
you press, the pressure changes,
and
then
what
you
ends
get
up happening
this
is that
little
it
divot.
absorbs more ink. Whereas
Which sometimes looks good. I think this bit on the chin here inadvertently works with the anatomy, but that's just me. You don't always have a good result. I can
whereas
understand.
strangely enough, because the parallel pen or a fountain pen like that uses a very liquid ink, you can kind of go halfway and then do a rotation, and it doesn't actually do this as much.
Because the thing about fountain pen ink is it's more liquid, and the ink takes a little while to dry, so there's like almost a backwash of ink that smoothens out.
And it sort of sits on the surface of the
Right.
paper rather than being absorbed immediately, whereas the felt tip here kind of immediately pushes the ink into the
Right.
paper. So that's an interesting thing that I found, where this pen is clearly better at a particular effect, but then worse at the other effect. So I guess you use each one for what they're good at.
So these pens, I believe, are available only in packs, of 5.
Mm-hmm.
They cost roughly $1,000.
Indian bucks,
Indian.
not US bucks.
Yes,
They're-
Indian rupees. Only thousand-ish bucks.
So that's about $12 to $14 here. I'm sure because they're imported here, you might find them cheaper where you are.
Now, what has also happened, during the pandemic is that, I think every society and every area has seen a proliferation of lettering artists and calligraphers. So what has happened is now there are lots of similar, marker pens that are available. I know that Zig does some excellent markers.
Okay.
Kuretake, I don't know how it's pronounced.
I think that's the way
Kuretake,
it is.
so-
Yes.
So Zig does excellent pens. I know that there is an Indian brand called Brustro that also has come out with these pens. And I've actually tried all of these. I'd say that Zig and Staedtler are still better than the rest available in the market.
Now you'll be able to probably shed better light on this. This is a very like the parallel pen. It is parallel. It is horizontal to the sort of the angle of attack. Most calligraphy nibs that I've seen have a certain tilt to them.
The tilt actually has to do with language. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Because the last felt tip pen that I used was an Arabic calligraphy pen.
Exactly.
And that one had the angle on the opposite side since they write right to left.
Right. So essentially, most Roman script and calligraphy that's related to Roman script has this sort of 90-degree
That's
angle.
right.
And I believe the Arabic one has something like a 35 or a 50.
You have the angles here, right? This is the angle
That is the
It's-
angle at which Gothic is actually.
it's almost
written
like
at.
a keystone or a place to set your angle. You set it against there and then you kind of keep those lines. That's why you learn on that angle.
And I know recently Minjal has been practicing some Gujarati, which also has an angled nib.
That's right.
Is that the same angle as
Yeah.
Arabic, or is it different?
No, it is the opposite.
Okay, so it's that way.
So we will show some of Minjal's calligraphy work on screen just to show you the differences between what the angle changes.
Are there other? I mean, other than 45, are there like 15? Are there 30? Are there things like that?
In terms of angles?
In terms of angles, yes. Let's approach this from all angles. I know we geeked out about this on our geometry box episode. Please watch that one.
So a lot of, there is a script called the Untitled script, which is supposed to be one of the earliest scripts that was used. Now, Untitled is sometimes written at 10 degrees,
Wow.
which
And
means
how do you even tell that?
which means it would be, your pen would actually be this flat.
Oh, okay.
So you'd get really thick strokes.
Right.
Whereas Gothic, you'd write it at, say, this angle. So you can see the difference in these two angles.
Yes.
So a lot of scripts are actually written at different angles. Italic has a different angle. Unshell would have a different angle. That's about it.
Well, I think we've taken this on a proper test drive today. This was quite unfamiliar to me as a person who's never really taken to calligraphy seriously. It was actually nice to free myself of the standard notions of what a calligraphy implement can be used for, and I think it was great to have something like this that's frankly not as intimidating. I've used calligraphy kits before. I've used the parallel pen. The parallel pen is really lovely, and watch our episode for that one. That was our very first episode.
So this one is really convenient, right?
Yeah.
Because you have two different sizes. If you're a beginner, you can use it to
Yeah.
draw. You can use it to write.
I think the only downside is that you have to buy it in a set.
In a set, yes.
Because clearly, if you're anything like me, you'll end up using the black one more than some of the colors, or maybe there's there's red, black, blue, green,
And a purple.
and a purple. Oh, purple! We should actually have a look at that one at some point. Maybe we'll put a picture of one of our experiments in there. But we will get back to making those experiments, to experimenting with other implements and tools. We actually have, like we were saying, that calligraphy is an old and ancient art form. Wedge-shaped marking tools for lettering and artwork are as old as civilization, and we have the prototype of something like this. If we're calling this the modern version of things, the pocketable 21st century, take it anywhere, does not dry out, don't need to get an import type thing. We also have an upcoming episode on something so low tech that you could literally make it at any point in history if you had a sharp enough tool to cut it. right?
Yeah, that will be coming up soon.
That will be coming up soon. We're very excited for that one. We enjoyed the work we made with it, and we'll be recording it soon and showing it to you soon. Please look forward to that one. Please like, subscribe. Please tell your friends about this video. We're a young and growing channel, even though we are not young and probably not growing.
In spirit.
In spirit. We are always growing our skills and our experiments and our broadening our horizons, especially in stationery, in art, in calligraphy now. And we will see you very soon. Until then, I've been Vishal.
I'm Samir.
This is Minjal.
And attack those angles.